So right now the counter says 0, which is really interesting. Oh, there's no music. Oh, you can hear me. There we go. Hello, my friends. How are you doing? Wow, I'm a little bit big on the camera. Hello? Okay, so let's see how this works, which is today is a little bit of a strange format because I'm streaming unlisted. So I'm not sure how many people actually going to join. Unlisted means it's not shown on my YouTube channel. It's just shown if you have the link, you can watch it. That's the difference. So it's kind of exclusive for my Facebook group. To not like confuse people what is going on, right? Because suddenly it's a different topic, stuff like that. Yeah, so should we? Oh, there's someone in the chat. That's great. Hi, Sandra. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. That's good, from Washington State. Nice to see you. All right, so let's see how this goes today, if it works at all. Yeah. All right, and there was like last month was a really wild ride, as you know, with my channel, big change and everything. I thought maybe I can talk a little bit about that, or not. I don't know. Maybe some more people join. I should have like posted a link earlier too. So all of this is kind of strange. Or should we just do the challenge? Maybe we do the challenge first. I'm a little bit confused on how to do this best right now. Let me, maybe, should I put this window over to the other side? I'm not quite sure. Let's leave it like this for right now. Wait a second, maybe I put this on the second screen. Sorry. I'm almost done here. There we go. Okay, now I can see both things. Let me switch over here to the work view so we can see the challenge also. I think you might be the only viewer today because I handled this terribly on promoting the stream. I wasn't sure when to do the stream. I actually was also thinking about maybe do this as a recorded video that I'm going to share. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, maybe let's do the challenge review first, right? If you're still here, I don't even know. Let's do this. Okay, so here we have the first entry from Carrie Carter. I hope you can see that. And I also opened up here Unsplash to look at some other images. We can also pull up here some more stuff. Like, for example, this is a forest image. And forests, I find forests are kind of hard to photograph to show what you want. Because there is simply so much going on in a forest, it becomes very uniform. In the picture, it's really hard to actually create anything in a forest photo, right? And even here, it's like there's a lot of stuff going on. So the problem with a lot of stuff going on is that this creates kind of visual noise, so to speak, so you don't know where to look in the image, right? So in this case also, I think there's a color, there might be a color gradient on it, I think, because the orange suddenly stops here, even on the trees over here, and then turns into a brown and a green. Also, another problems you can see here is with overexposure in the forest. So probably a raw photo is good where you try to expose, rather underexpose, to make it too dark and then lighten it up afterwards, or make multiple exposures as an HDR photo so you can have the sky in here. Or with a different software like Lightroom or such, or Luminar, you can put a blue sky in here where these blown out areas are. Of course, also when you look at your camera, let's pull up here histogram. When you look at your camera, because often often you can't really see what is going on in the photo. So you do have a histogram in your camera. And then on the right side, you have the lights. On the left side, you have the darks. as, hi Sharon, how are you doing from Queensland? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So some people are joining. That's good. All right. And the good thing is the histogram is showing you what the sensor is basically seeing, independent of what you're seeing on the screen, because that is often kind of a problem, because at the bright day, the screen looks very dark. At the dark night, the screen looks very bright. So it's hard to judge from there. And often the screen doesn't have all of the bit depth. So it doesn't have the full dynamic range that your photo has. So areas might look under or overexposed without being under or overexposed. And with the histogram, you can see that in the camera. So you can, for example, see, oh, there are these spots that are overexposed. Also, you can have these stripes on the camera. It's another setting. I don't know what they're called in English, but you can set kind of a warning setting on where areas are under, over, or overexposed, and then that area is blinking with these stripes. Let's see, overexposure warning. Oh yeah, here you can see that. These stripes, when you get them, you know, oh, okay, in that area it's overexposed. You can set that actually up in the camera. It depends on the camera, but in my camera, I have a Sony a7 III. I can set up the value where these stripes start. So it does not mean it's completely overexposed. You can set a limit where you say, okay, if it hits that limit, it feels too bright to me. I don't want to go over that limit or under that limit. So that can be very helpful to get a better value here, right? Yeah, and in the forest, maybe HDR is good to get just a better image. But overall, it's difficult to get a good shot anyway. So what you want to have, and this is not easy to find in a forest because a forest is very uniform, is any kind of pattern, any kind of story you can find in there. So in this case, you can see here, for example, there seems to be some kind of pathway here where a tractor is driving, because you can see here, you have here these two yellow lines. I think these are from tracks. And they give a certain structure, and then only in the background is forest. So you can see here that we have here basically a division in the image where all of that is forest and all of that is meadow in the foreground. And then over here on the right side, we have a little bit of sky in the background. So there is a certain visual structure, right? You could actually say that there is like 3 areas in here like this, you know? This is just a tree, how do you say, tree stumps, and here we have the leaves and the branches, and then down here we have the grass, basically, right? So in this image, you can see that there's a lot of things going on, and you don't know visually what should I concentrate on. So try to figure out who is the star of my photo, who is the subject of my photo, right? So in this case, you can see there is this kind of, there's the roots of that fallen tree here. So that might be a subject, and I guess it is because it's in the center of the image. And this, by the way, is also a classic mistake, or not a mistake, but it often is done that you point your camera directly in the middle on what is going on. You can see like this is almost the middle of the shot. So try to be a little bit off center, makes most images much more interesting to do that. This is why you have these third lines, for example, in your camera, that you say, okay, let's put my subject a little bit down here, right? Or for example, let's put my subject a little bit over here. So it's more dynamic, right? It just gives a little bit more structure. We can look here for a fallen tree. And by the way, if you have questions or anything, write that in the comments, let me know. So for example, here we have one. Let's see, what else do we have? Is not a great picture. This, well, oh, not so great either. It's not easy to take good photos, right? It's really hard. And it takes exercise. I think exercise is the best teacher for getting better with photography. And I'm not saying that because I think I'm a good photographer. I'm not a good photographer either. I think everybody's learning, right? Everybody is kind of shy about their own pictures, and there's always room to improve. But when we look at, again, at these pictures, so One thing is study other shots, and the second thing is go out there and take a lot of photos, be experimental, try a lot of things, like go to that fallen tree and take maybe 30 photos. Move around, move the camera up and down, which is one of my favorite things, to find different techniques. Like fold out the screen in the back of the camera and then just move it up and down and to the side and maybe on the angle and stuff like that to figure out, is there a nice perspective? Is there something that gives me a better image? So in this case, you can see again, we have here a split in the image. So this is all the ground with a lot of green stuff. And then up here we have the trees that are more gray. And here we have a very nice structure that is going over here to the side, but we also feel like there's a little bit of a path going here under the tree towards us. So there's actually a very nice structure in here that is also visually different. Like you can see, for example, that this path here has a kind of very nice bright green, while these areas here are rather darker. So it's much easier to see them. It's much easier to have a distinction and identify this here as kind of a path, right? And you can do this in editing. It doesn't have to be like that in the real world, because half of the story that you want to tell, you tell through the editing afterwards. May I ask what day it is in Queensland? Oh, okay. In Vienna, it's Monday, I think. Actually, I don't know. Yes, it's Monday in Vienna. I don't know what day it is in Queensland right now. And here we have another image. Again, this is done a lot in editing. So where you can see that, again, we have this kind of divide in the image here with this structure. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but the stuff that's going on up here is not that important. And then the main story is going on down here. And it's visually different from the color and attracts much more attention because this is more warm and it's more intense from the color, while the background here is more cool and more uniform also, right? So yeah, try to figure out these kind of different interesting perspectives to do that. It's 7 a.m. Well, it's kind of a good time, right? I guess people get up at that time, right? Okay. Let's maybe go to the next image here. This is from Anne, and there we have some mushrooms, which is nice. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to take photos. So the one that I explained, the way I like to photograph is, of course, just one way. There's a lot of different ways. So you can take images like that, but as you've seen, like with the last image, we have here the same situation. Maybe let's make this open in a different tab. You have here kind of the same situation, that there's a lot of stuff going on and you don't really know what to focus on. I mean, it's kind of about the mushrooms, but they have the same sharpness and attention as the rest of the image. And there's two different mushrooms. You see here, you have these like red mushrooms here, and then you have some white mushrooms over here. But they are all equally important in the image, right? They all have kind of the same size in here. They are spread out evenly over the image, so there is no distinction of what is it actually you want to show in that image, right? Much better than 4 a.m. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Your country right now, it is freezing and snow. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, it's better than 4 a.m. Is it cold right now in Queensland? No, right? Queensland is Australia, right? So it should be summer there. Or spring. Is it spring right now? I guess. And you have Christmas in summer, basically, right? Okay, let's go here. You see here we have different mushroom photos. So let's open up some of them to look a little bit on different ideas of what we can have here in these images to figure out different kind of concepts for that. What can you do with mushrooms? All right, so here we have the first one, which is not completely on the ground. So this means we don't see the, what is it called? Like these little, you know, the underside of the mushroom. We see the side of the mushroom. The good thing for that is when you do that, you can create a very nice focus area here where the mushrooms are, and everything in the background is blurred. You have a very nice bokeh for that. So the focus is very clearly on the mushrooms, but also you see a lot of detail in the mushrooms, which is very nice too. You can even go a little bit higher to show a little bit of the top of the mushroom, so that's good. 24 degrees Celsius is actually nice. To miss spring and go straight to summer. Oh, interesting. Nice. Is it a long summer or a short summer? Hi, Robomar. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you. Here we miss fall and went from summer to dead of winter. Really? That's interesting. Or was it a very warm autumn? Because here it was also very warm autumn. Like right now, I cannot right now because it's in the middle of the night. But today I went for a walk. I had my jacket open. It was sunny. It was nice. It's a very warm winter, to be honest, right now in Vienna. So this is one way to photograph. The second way is where you go even a little bit deeper. Now you can see the dramatic difference from going on the side of the mushroom to going a little bit below the mushroom. This is just a couple of centimeters deeper, but suddenly, because you do that, this is a perspective we kind of expect, and it's interesting, but it's also kind of common. Now here you have a perspective where suddenly, because you are lower than the top of the mushrooms, they become kind of giant buildings. Can you actually hear me? Yes, you can. Okay, cool. And this is a perspective we almost never see. So that's pretty cool to have it like that. If you're not so flexible, if it's hard for you to kneel down, if you have problems in the knees, what I can suggest to you is take the camera on the tripod and then just pull it, like push it down to the ground and have the screen out of the camera and use a remote. So you don't have to bend down, but the camera is down there. You can also do it with a one-leg tripod just on a stick, bringing it down there. Or if you photograph with your smartphone, for example, that is easy with a selfie stick. You can just go down there, although then you maybe have a little bit of a problem to see the monitor. But in that case, you can have a mirror. There are special mirrors you can buy that they reflect the screen upwards to you. So that's also a possibility. You can see how this creates a really nice world that is very different. Also, what you can see here is, again, and this, like you will see this in so many pictures, we have another separation here. That's a main element in photography. So we have the brown ground and then we have the green background. And even here we have a little bit of white. So this seems to be in one of these, how do you say, growing houses? I don't know what the name is in English. Yeah, you're welcome, Sharon. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there's also tripods where you can put the camera on the underside of the tripod to go really low. In that case, you need to kneel down, but you can have it on a tripod so you can like play around with the settings without having to hold the camera. Also something I would absolutely suggest to you if you want to do this a lot. Oh, 1 second, I need to switch here. Is to get some knee pads. Not these kind of knee pads. There is these kind of worker knee pads for what is it? Wait, construction. Yeah, maybe these. I actually, oh yeah, you see here, these construction knee pads. You can put that just on one leg if you want. And then you can just kneel on the ground without it hurting you when there's stones and sticks and stuff like that, without your knee getting wet when you kneel on the ground. And that is very helpful because it's hard to kneel for like that amount of time, right? So that can be very helpful. All right, let's go back here. Here's the next idea. So what you're seeing here when we compare to this photo is the idea is either try to find a nice angle or try to find a nice story, which we're going to see with these images now here. So in this case, you have a little bit of a story where you have these very small mushrooms living on the side of a tree, like just growing out of there. If you capture a little bit more of the surrounding, maybe some moss, maybe some flies, stuff like that, it starts to look like a little world, like a micro world, like a microcosm, and you can really like connect emotionally to that, right? Here, no, not that, this one. This one is the one where you have this kind of microcosm, right? So you have this little like beetle here, which is sitting on there doing his daily business, and then you have some grass here where this is coming out of the grass. So that creates a certain like narrative or story or something that is cute or something we can connect to. So that's very interesting to look at, right? And again, try a different kind of perspective, try different kind of distances, or any kind of thing to see, is it more dynamic? Does it look more interesting? Do I want to focus on the beetle, or do I want to focus on the cup here of the mushroom, or any other thing, right? There's a lot of possibilities. Then you can also do things like this, like bring the different mushrooms home and make this kind of overview. That can be also very interesting. It's not a forest image, but it's a creative idea. You can also do that out in the forest, like just show what you have gathered with your mushroom hunt. And that can be very interesting because it has a lot of details to look at in here. The next one is more of these kind of documentarian photos where you show what you're doing, stuff like that. Like when you pick the mushroom, you photograph your hand picking the mushroom, or when you cut the mushroom from the ground, stuff like that, or you cut it at home, you make a soup, stuff like that. That can also be interesting, right? So there is much more to autumn and a forest than just making a photo of a forest. Yeah, there's more of this kind of documentarian style photos here. Yeah, and that's it for the mushrooms. Let's go on to the next image. Lots of... All right, there we go. Let me have a look at the... You have a little folding step stool I take with me and sit on that. That is also a very good idea. That's really cool. That's a great idea. By the way, there is also these kind of isolation pads. Isolation sitting pad. These things here, they are, oh, okay, that's not very helpful. Let's go to images here. These kind of things. This is one for blowing up. You don't need to have one. These work great. They can be folded and you can just sit on them. You can see here, you can sit on them, you can kneel on them. They're very small, they're very light, and they are multi-purpose. So that's kind of nice. You can also put them under your arm. So that is pretty cool. So that's also a way to have a light form of sitting on the ground. Of course, it doesn't support your back or anything like that. So, and also you can't, like, the folding step stool is good because you can get a little bit higher if you want to. You can reach up to another place. Okay, let's go here for the next one from Hilde. I'm not quite sure what this is. Can you actually see what's going on? So there is some stars here in the background. This might be a long time exposure because you can see that up here we have some strange shadows in here, some light, not shadows, light smudges. So that might be from the mushrooms moving in the mint. I'm actually not sure what that is. Or it might be like, it is a really interesting idea. And they, like, especially this one here looks a little bit like a spacecraft or something. So it is a nice photo. It's maybe a little bit abstract, right? So to have maybe an image like this with the sky in the background where you can see the mushrooms a little bit better might be better. Let's see, mushroom night photo. But the idea is great because it's not easy to come up with these ideas either. So, and you can see there's not really much in here. There's a night photo, but not with the stars. So that's actually a great idea. By the way, this is another way to photograph different perspective, right? Like I said, try to find an interesting angle or try to find an interesting story. In this case, we have an interesting angle, but we also have a very nice visual separation from the green, I would say this is moss, to the mushrooms that are here on that kind of stick. And sometimes, because you're not like from National Geographic or something, you can fake it a little bit. So maybe take that stick and put it on the moss to just create that situation if you don't find that situation, right? All right. Okay. So that is really interesting here. It's kind of hard to see what is going on. So a little bit more clarity might be nice, but as a creative photo, it's really interesting. It's very nice and a great idea. I would have never thought about photographing mushrooms and sky at the same time. Does anyone else think Olivia forgot us? Oh yeah, you mean with the channel? I'm gonna talk about that a little bit at the after the challenge, right? Yeah, because it's just a lot of work. But let's go on with the challenge photos here, and then I'm going to talk about that at the end a little bit. So also about the new Affinity photo version, we can discuss that a little bit. What you think about that would be interesting. So here we have this kind of classic trick of having a black and white photo. Maybe I should zoom in here a little bit so you can see that better. 1 second. So that did not really work. So you can see this, the outside is black and white, and then we have here these green leaves, and then we have a little bit of a blue building in the background with a blue sky also. But the way this was achieved is by just having a blurred ellipse or just painting on that area on the mask to make that visible. So of course you can see that ellipse, you see right here. So that is why it didn't quite work to create that, because it's so visible. What you want to do in that case is to use the HSL filter or adjustment, not the filter, the HSL adjustment, and then just single out the green value here from the leaves and invert that. I think invert that, and then desaturate everything else. So you're just left with the greens. And then you can pull also, you can like paint a mask on that where you paint out all of the green areas you don't want to have. Like here, the trees in the background and the grass and stuff like that. So only the leaves are green anymore, like that. Or another way would be to simply desaturate and then just use the selection brush to mask out these leaves here. So that can be a very nice effect to have that. So that's actually a great idea. And it's also an easy idea because you don't have to play so much around with the bokeh and the angle and stuff like that, because you bring attention, you create the story by simply removing saturation from everything else but the main subject of your photo. By the way, when we are talking about leaves, of course, there is a lot of ways you can photograph leaves. So let's have a look here if we find some. Of course, this kind of top-down thing is good. Like, let me close these things so we can talk about some ideas here of photographing leaves. There's this kind of combination. I would like to see one against the sun. Let's see, leaf. Against sun, is there one like that? Do I write leaf the wrong way? Leaf? Maybe it's leaf with an F. I'm actually not sure. I think that's it. Okay. Oh yeah, there we have this. Against sun. No, that's not what I'm looking for. 1 second. Leaf structure. Oh, there's a little bit against the light. This is with the shadow. Yeah, let's start with these. Okay, so some ways to photograph leaf is, of course, again, what is going on a leaf. There can be spiders and insects on there. There can be water on there, or there can be holes in there that can be interesting, a butterfly, stuff like that. So what kind of things are happening in the daily life of a leaf? How can I capture these kind of things? Maybe it's the morning dew. Maybe it is the rain after, like the drops after rain. Maybe it's the first snowflakes falling onto a leaf, things like that. So there's a lot of interesting things that can happen with a leaf. Is it a leaf on the tree or is it a leaf on the ground? Things like that. Then, of course, you have certain leaves that have a lot of structure in them. So that can be really interesting to photograph those and play with this. And this, again, can be also enhanced in like afterwards in post-production. No, like in editing of the photos. Backlit. Yes, backlit. That's right. There we go. And yeah, so that is a possibility. Another possibility, especially in autumn, is try to find leaves in different stages of autumn degradation. I'm not sure how you would call that, like different colors, maybe also different shapes. If you go to the park, you can collect different leaves and then put them together in a little pile, make a photo like that. So you don't have to find them, just collect from different trees. Often in parks, you will find that they have a lot of different trees. I'm not sure if this is in America, but in Europe, you find often in parks, they show you also not just for the gardening purpose, but also for educational purposes. They try to have as many different leaves, different trees as possible to show you what they look like, what they feel like, what they smell like, stuff like that, right? This is also a historical part of the English garden and of this kind of scientific approach to creating a garden and teaching the public at the same time, right? Okay, so look at the park, see what kind of different trees are out there. And of course, then you have these kind of backlit trees. Thank you for telling me that. Where the light comes from the backside and shines through these pathways, basically in the leaf, through the structure of the leaf, and that can be really beautiful. You can also hold it up with your hand to show your hand in the image to make it more, to create more story. Maybe if you have a kid, have the kid hold it up against the sun, and then you photograph it with the hand of the kid. That can be very cute. Yeah, and also yeah, you can have like, for example, kid playing with leaf. That's also a thing. Like what can you do with leaves, right? I'm writing it wrong again. There you go, stuff like that. Right? So there's a lot of possibilities of what can be done with leaves and what happens with leaves in the daily life. Look at him. It's so cute, right? Sitting in between these leaves on the grass, in the moss, stuff like that. So that can be really cool. Just to create a story. Or here we have these kind of hands. Is that a kid or is it grown up? I'm not quite sure, but there you can do some things, or maybe put it in the hair or stuff like that. So there's a lot of different possibilities of what can happen with leaves. All right, let's go on here. There we have the next one. So this has a lot of these elements in there that we have spoken about. This is actually pretty great. Like I said, these are the things, the methods I explain here. It's just like one way to do it. There's different ways to do it, right? But here you have this nice separation here where we have the blurred area in the background. We have the sharp area in the foreground. Then we know very clearly it is about this. I don't know what it's called in English. Acorn? No, it's not an acorn. I don't know what it is. If you know, let me know. We have here people in the background walking away, and we have here a line going to these people. So structurally, this image is also very nice. Now, maybe if this would be a kid here, collecting these things here, and you can kind of see it, that would give a little bit more story to that, but it doesn't have to be. Not everything has to be staged, right? But it is a very nice photo. So it has a lot of these elements, and as you can see here, visually it is very pleasing to have a clear subject and a clear structure because you know what is going on, right? So that is immediately the difference between a snapshot and an actual photo, because in the photo you have a lot of concept and story and you want to present something in a nice way, while a snapshot just like captures that moment as quickly as possible because you want to keep that moment. There's a big difference between these two, and a photo is more planned in that way, right? Which this is more planned, as you can see here, so that is very nice. Okay, let's go on here to the next one. Oh, with the geese. I think this looks more like a collage though, because the shadow of the geese look very strange. So I'm not sure. I don't think this is an actual photo. It might be. I don't think it is. I don't think it's a photo with the geese in there. But it's a nice concept, right? So you do have the geese in the foreground. Also, I think is this the exact same goose? It might be. Because it has the same patterns and everything? I'm not quite sure. Chestnut. That's a chestnut, really? Interesting. I didn't know. Okay. But it has a nice structure from the image itself, and you can also see that it has these kind of different layers. So you see here like first layer where the geese are happening inside of that layer in front of the grass. So the grass, there's not much to look at, and then the geese are separated because there is something to look at. So there's not very much noise here, but a big clarity that it is about the geese. And then we have this water area here with the reflection, stuff like that, which is separating then from the background where you see the trees and the sky. So overall it has a nice structure. And also when we have these lines here, you can see that basically we have these kind of rules of third in this kind of photo. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in that picture, right? So that is very nice. The white pattern on chin is different in the geese. Is it? It looks very similar. I mean, here is a little bit more shadow on that below, but it looks very same. I don't know. Anyways, this perspective here is a little bit different. You can see here, we can see it kind of from behind with the feathers, and this is more from the side with the feathers, or it is edited out. Well, anyways, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The shadows, just the shadows are a little bit strange on the grass, but who knows? Who knows? So actually, it's a very nice image from all of these kind of elements and how they come together. And you can see again how much clarity you have on what the subject is and what the photo wants to show you. And that is always like pleasing for us because it gives us an answer, right? Our brain is always searching for answers of what is going on, and we are happy when we find the answer of what is going on. And so these more structured images are often like giving us more satisfaction from that. And structure can also be in a snapshot, but you have to be either like it has to be happy accident or you have to be a good photographer to have a good structured snapshot, a good composition in a snapshot, right? All right, let's go on here to the next image. Did I miss something? No, we have everything in here. All right, so here, also nice. As you can see, lots of focus on that area here, and then lots of bokeh in the background, lots of blur. So in this case, you can see clearly what this is about. I think maybe this image would benefit from becoming a black and white image because you have very nice structures in here. So that could be really cool to see that. Also, what you can do in this image, by the way, is to have a little bit more separation in the colors from the foreground and the background. Because you can see here, these elements here, they have the same beige, and the green. In nature, green has a lot of yellow in the green. So if you pull out that yellow, there is a much bigger separation between that foreground, which has the beige yellow in it, and then when you remove the yellow from the green, you have a saturated, darker, deeper green that looks more like grass to us for some reason. And that can actually give you a better result, but also a cleaner visual separation from these two parts. The goose was composite to the image. I see. Okay, good. The white pattern on the... Oh, okay, I have already read that. So that's pretty cool. So you can play around with that. Oh, nice. Here we have an image from Eric. Okay, cool. So lots of very saturated leaves. Very nice. And again, you can see here we have again this kind of separation here in the image. And then we also have this kind of visual separation here where this tree is kind of almost gray. And we have these three different areas where things are going on. So it's actually very nice, right? I would maybe have put a little bit more foreground because this here is almost hitting the edge of the image. So try, if possible, not to bring things too close to the edge, but have more of a like distinct distance to the edge, right? So let's, for example, if we play with circles, if you have a circle that is like this, it's clearly in the image. But if you have a circle, if you have a circle that's like that, it's very close to the edge. And the edge is attracting. It's pulling the elements towards the edge, and that feels kind of strange to us if we look at things like that. But you can, if you want, overlap it distinctively, right? So this is distinctively outside of the edge, and then that's good again. We feel okay with that, right? Another thing that's strange is when something is kind of peeking in here. With often is really hard because there's so many things in the world that can peek in, especially when you're in a city. There's all these street signs and everything, but maybe you can remove that in post to get that out of the image, because it can just be, it just looks strange if something is peeking into the image, especially if it attracts attention. So you can either edit it out or desaturate it or make it darker or maybe blur it a little bit to get the attention away from that. This is also why I like to use vignettes, because they create a focus more to the center of the image. Okay, but other than that, this is pretty cool. There's a lot of things going on, but there's basically, when you look at the image, only two different elements. You have the leaves and then you have the tree. There's nothing else. Of course, there's bushes and then we have these leaves on the ground, but both of them are leaves, right? They're just different colors. So that is okay. There's not too much confusion in here. All right, let's go on. Here we have a flower, which is a nice photo. Pretty cool. I think maybe that could be, how can I say? Like, it's a very nice photo, but it's a photo we have seen often. We have seen a lot. So maybe that could be a different kind of thing happening. Maybe waiting a little bit for an insect to come or something else. Or maybe, again, like desaturate the flowers in the background a little bit, make them a bit darker or stuff like that. To get more... to get it a little bit more creative, a little bit more different from what we have already seen, right? Let's see here. Let's have Blossom Macro. Let's see if we have some good shots here. Is there some good stuff here? Let's have a look at what this is. There we have a closer macro. Oh, there's something with a, what do you say here? Mesh? Oh, there's a nice structure here. And again, it's not easy to come up with these kind of things, right? There we have a spider on there. So let's have a look at different kind of concepts here. This is done mostly in post to make it interesting. This is a nice separation from the background. Here we have again this kind of image where it's put afterwards on a table. So look at that. Let's look at that a little bit. And then, yeah, of course, you can do like creative arrangements and stuff. Oh, it's also nice. Okay, so let's have a look at those. Oh, let's open this up too. Let's have a look at these images here. So that's actually not that interesting. Here we have more of a like less depth of field. So this is like just pulling out a very small area of the blossom. So it's only about these little stems in here, which can be interesting because it creates a closer story about what part of the blossom you actually want to show. This is more of a situation of the life of a blossom, right? With this, what is it called? Mesh? I can't remember. But there's a little bit more going on, right? Not just the blossoms, there's a little bit of story in here of what is going on with that. So that can be interesting. Here we have a close-up, which is nice. This is also, I would say, made a lot more interesting through the editing afterwards to focus on one color and then create a high contrast. So that can help a lot. Here, of course, we have an image of a spider, which is kind of not an image of a blossom, but it's still a little bit of the life of the blossom. So that can be interesting. And this is, I think, when you would look at the original photo, that wouldn't be very interesting. But because of the editing of separating the colors out, and in this case, by the way, in this case is a good example of the green has the yellow mostly removed. And this is why it is so dark and looks so like very green, not the yellowish green that we usually see with our eyes in nature. And that looks a lot more green in photos than it does with our eyes. It's a lot more yellow. I mean, a lot more yellow. Okay, so yeah. Here we have all of the bokeh in the background, which can also be nice because we have a stronger focus on the blossom. And yeah, this is just arrangement of the flowers afterwards, which can also be a good idea. And yeah, more artistic arrangements can also be interesting. So again, there's a lot of things you can do when there's an interesting structure to flowers, stuff like that, right? This also, you can see how, like, when you play with the, rather with the, than with the blossom, you play with the structures you find in the blossom. They can turn from the actual blossom into more of a sculpture. And you look at the dynamic that is going on. This is looking like more like a dance or like flames or things like that. So that can be very interesting. All right, but this wait, that's not the photo. This one is still a good photo. It's still, I'm not saying it's a bad photo. It's very nice. It's very sharp. It has nice details. I like it with the raindrops on there. The only thing is, it's just something that we have all seen a lot before, right? So it's kind of a common perspective. So trying to figure out what can I do more than that, right? If you want to do that, again, I want to pronounce that again, like only if you want to do that. Okay. Anyways, how many more pictures do we have? Okay, that's good. Right, what's the time of the screen? Oh, 46 minutes. Maybe, should I go a little bit faster? I think this is a composition again. There's a lot of stuff going on. And there's a sky replacement that didn't completely work. There might be snow up here. It looks a little bit like, I don't know, strange, like a pelt or something. So that's kind of strange. New Hampshire in fall with adjustment in Affinity Photo and Nick. Is this not a composition? It looks a lot like a composition with the sky replacement. The structure is nice. The colors are just a little bit, yeah, a little bit strange, especially with this white area back here. I don't know. Also, what in this image, as you can see, again, everything is very sharp and detailed and high contrast and high saturation, which makes it kind of more difficult to focus on the image, right? So for example, in this kind of, I could imagine that in this image there was used a lot of clarity, and clarity creates these kind of sharp looking edges in trees and in foliage. Because it's pulling out and enhancing the edges to create more clarity, but at the same time it makes it more harder and sharper, which is it's the opposite of what you want a tree to be, because the leaves are usually soft. So do less clarity, maybe play a little bit around with sharpness, and then you can also try with ideally in the camera with different depth of field. So for example, if this part here in the foreground, if this tree here would be more in bokeh, would be more blurred, and then this area here in the middle, this here would be sharper, that probably would be better because you can focus on a certain area in the photography. Let's again look here on Autumn River. Let's see what this is. If we can find an image that is similar. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here too. I try to see if I can find an example of that. Again, if there's just a lot going on in the image, it's hard to focus on the image. Right? It's hard to focus on what is going on in the image. So let's look at this. I mean, there's also a lot of focus. This is a little bit clearer because there is, like, with this branch coming in here, which is nice. It just creates additional, like, information. Maybe it's just a color. I don't know. You see how this is a little bit clearer for what is going on. By the way, let me download this real quick. Let me see if we have this when we go to Photoshop real quick. 1 second. Photoshop. There we go. because that has this kind of bokeh, AI bokeh filter. So that could be interesting to see how that changes the image. Now, of course, I have to find the image. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. There we go. Let's go here to neural filter. Depth blur. Let's turn that on. It takes a little bit. Okay, so let's click here in the background. And that is actually way too much. Yeah, the blur here in the foreground is too strong. Let's make this a little bit softer. Maybe like this. Okay. But you can see now that this is a little bit more in bokeh here in the foreground. We can focus more on the river here. And it's creating a little bit like easier to look at because we have multiple layers now, right? So we have here basically this part as the foreground layer. And then we have this part here as the midground layer. And then here, this part here basically is the background layer, right? So you have different distances from the camera. So that might be interesting. But also the editing is just a little bit too much. From we could also try that. Let's I'm still in the painting mode. Let's click OK here. And then go in here real quick, go to camera raw. Getting started. Okay, cool. 1 second. Can you actually see what I'm doing? Oh no, you can't. 1 second. Sorry for that. Because my screen is bigger than what you can see on the screen. There we go. Let's see here. Let's try this a little bit here. Make this a little bit more orange. And then from the green. Does this move? Yeah. Actually not sure if I... Does this change anything? Not now. Whoops. Okay, let's have the saturation, maybe a little bit less here. Like that, maybe. See from the green, bring that a little bit down. And then, can we do something here? Whoops, no, that's not great. Oh, maybe we can warm it up a little bit. Pull the shadows a little bit back, highlights. A bit like that, maybe. Okay, let's see. It's not great by any means what I did right now, but you can see how this gives a little bit more structure. So this is the original where the tones are very close, and here we have a little bit more separation between the oranges and the greens, although they are completely wrong. So yeah. Why is the green so intense here? Let's go here. Pull this a little bit more down. Can we do the overall color here? Look at this color grading in here. Basics, temperature. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, but you can see how it changes a little bit. You see? Where you bring a little bit of distance into the different elements, right? And then maybe if you also have a little bit of a vignette, as I like to do. Is there a vignette filter in here? Oh, there's a vignette filter in this thing here, right? Let me see real quick. There should be one. I'm not using Photoshop a lot, so I don't actually know. Geometry, that's the wrong one. Oh, there's a vignette filter. There we go. Oh, I can put grain too. Okay, let's not put grain. What does calibration do? Shadows? Okay. Ooh. Let's keep it like that. Okay, cool. Good. So there is a little bit more structure in there. Not great, what I did right now, but you can see it's a little bit more visual structure. It's a little bit to the side for you, right? There we go. There's just a bit more separation because the tones, all of the tones here are a little bit similar because we have the orange and then the yellowish green and things. So here the green is just green and the orange is just orange. So there's a bit more separation in here from these different elements. Okay, anyways, I haven't looked at the chat for a while. Let's see. Gardening knee pads worked quite well. Okay, good. All right. Here we have the next one. Oh, wow. What is going on here? Okay. Interesting situation. Kind of strange. So we have here like a sunken boat, I guess, here in the foreground, which is interesting. We have an interesting like separation. Also a very like different mood, I would say. Because up here we have this kind of lovely autumn scene, very dreamy with the long time exposure. And then down here we have this kind of sunken boat on that kind of forsaken island. So that changed from dreamy autumn to family tragedy or something like that. It's kind of strange what's going on here. But it's nice. Why not? That's interesting. And at least there's an interesting structure in here. The flat pads are great, especially using the ground when it is wet and you want to get to a close up. Yes, right. If you want to kneel down on the ground, these pads are great. Right. Do like everything. Make it softer, make it drier, all these kind of things. You don't want to run around in the forest with wet knees. That's not very healthy. There's a nice image. Lots of nice structure in here. Also, you can see here we have these 3 layers I was talking about. So we have here the foreground layer, and then we have here the midground layer, and there we have a background layer. So that's also nice for a photo, right? So we have this kind of separation. If you think about an image, you can work if you want to. It's just a suggestion with the this kind of rule of thirds here. This is not something that is good for every photo. But it is used often by photographers. There's other composition rules also. Rule of third is just like easy to understand, easy to see. You will sometimes also have in your camera this kind of thing where, for example, you have this kind of cross or even 2 crosses in the middle that you can work with, stuff like that. But apart from this kind of thirds rule, you of course also have these kind of overlapping layers of the 3D distance in your image, right? When you see this as a 3D space, there's this different thirds, right? So 1/3 is the 2D space and the other third is the 3D space, and both of them can be very interesting to play with, right? Okay. Let's go to the next photo here. Ooh, nice structure. Oops. Okay. We can close this so you can see more. So that is very nice. This kind of tree here is, I just saw it yet. There is actually, I just saw it right now. There's actually a tree down here on the ground. This is not the beach. I thought this was the beach just going around here. But this kind of curve here creates a very nice structure in the image, which is really cool. And also it creates a nice separation with the water here because you have some nice foreground here. And then you have a different background here where different things are going on. Now, this image would benefit a lot from anything going on in the foreground. That would be great because right now we have that foreground area here that is taking up a lot of attention, but there's not any specific thing happening here, right? So if you had the exact same image, but let's say, for example, here would be a little bit of a warming fire with some logs or something, that would create a little bit of a story, right? Or maybe you have here like a person sitting here looking out onto the water like that. That could be nice, right? Just having a person sitting here, that could be interesting, right? Or anything else. Maybe the dog is standing here, right? If you have a dog here, I don't know how to draw a dog right now. Let's go like this with the dog. Oh my God, that's a bad dog. But you can see what I mean, right? So if there's anything in here in the foreground that gives a reason for the attention on the foreground, then you have a nice story here. And then you have nothing going on here in the middle, which is nice because it gives you a little bit space to free up your mind. And then you have the scenery in the background. So you bring all of the elements together, right? So if any chance of putting something there in the foreground, that's actually very enriching for the photo. Lovely leading line. Yes, absolutely. The line looks really beautiful. Very, very nice. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Oh, there we have a mushroom from the side. As you can see how nice that is, right? How beautiful that is to have that here. In this case, we have also some grass and some branches here, or maybe a young tree in here. Now, in this case, again, as you can see, the composition is very nice, and also the focus with the bokeh in the background is very nice. The only problem we have in this case is that the mushroom here and the background here have almost the same color. So they are visually kind of hard to separate, right? So in editing, if you give these, if you give that mushroom here a little bit of a different color, or maybe a different brightness or something like that, and then the background a little bit different color, that can actually be very beneficial. Actually, let's copy this over here and let's do affinity photo this time, because I know that a lot more, as you know. Let me see, 1 second. Okay, I have to make this smaller. There we go. So let's take this here from the clipboard. There we go. Okay, perfect. Let me make a little selection here of that mushroom in the foreground. Just a little bit. Whoa, that's rough. Okay. Let's remove that a little bit here, like so. There we go. Add this back and then refine this. Oh, there's some stuff here. Okay, let's just apply that. And then I want to invert that. Invert pixel selection. Make an adjustment for white balance in this case. Does this apply just to the rec? Yes. Okay, cool. So now, if we look at the image, sorry, need to. If we look at the image, and you can see, if I now cool down the backgrounds, I do it a little bit extreme right now. Let's do it very extreme. So this now in this case, you can see that the mushroom kind of looks like a sticker. So that is too much, as you can see. But you can also see that the mushroom is clearly visible now. Now, when you pull that a little bit back, like so, for example, so you have less of that blue in here, and then maybe go in here. Which of that is the mask? I think this is the mask. Let's have the brush here, make that a little bit bigger. And then also make that a little bit softer here. So that we can bring the warmth back here in the foreground a bit, like so. Okay. So in that case, let's see. Let me open this up again. So you can see just by making that one adjustment, I just can create a lot more separation between the foreground and the background. Of course, you can do a lot more with that and play around with that to see what you get from this. We can also actually, let me pull this out. Can I pull this out here from the mask? How do I pull out the mask? Oh, the mask is part of the thing now. Okay, let's click on that and then just make a mask separately. 1 second. So let's create here a curve. Sorry, a group, not a curve, a group. And then in the group, I want to put, what do I want to put actually? Let's make an HSL adjustment here real quick. HSL. Zoom in a little bit more so you can see what's going on. And then let's see. Does this do anything? No. Why is this not working right now? Oh, because it's below the image. Okay, that was a fail. Okay, there we go. So let's see with the color. Can we do anything with the color? Maybe like this a little bit. And then desaturate that a little bit. Like so, and then maybe make it a little bit darker. Okay, interesting. And so like that, of course, like it's a little bit dark right now. Can you see that still on the stream? Because my screen might be brighter than, I see it brighter than you maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. But you can see like, when you have it like this, the mushroom sinks into the background, and then if you create a little bit of separation, the mushroom stands out a lot more. This is what I mean by that, right? So you can play around with that. In editing, you can do so much things in post to create the image you want to have, right? And that was just like a very quick solution for that. Okay, let's go on here to the next image. It was a really beautiful image. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. There's a lot of stuff going on. So there we have actually like a little bit of a story element. Yeah, with a nice foreground here. That part here on the side is a little bit maybe big for, you see this part here, all of that, there is not much going on in here. So that might be a little bit too big. Maybe come a little bit closer with the crop. And but otherwise it's really very nice, very interesting. Let's copy this over too. Let's go in here. And then also you create a little bit more, it feels more personal, right? If you crop closer, let's have a little bit distance here. Actually have the original ratio maybe. Bring this in here a little bit. Let's see, we have the trees, so the same. Maybe bring the basket a little bit to the side. Could be like this. Let's see how that looks. You see how that is different? You have a lot more focus on the basket now. The basket is a little bit off center, and the other elements are not too intruding on the image. There's not too much information, not too much area where you look at the image. And there's a lot of stuff that actually doesn't like give you information in the image, right? This, by the way, this is also good advice, not just for figuring out what do you want to have in the image or how do you want to crop it, afterwards, but also what kind of images to select, for example, for a slideshow, stuff like that, is in the image, every part in the image, does it bring new information to the image? Does it bring interesting information to the image? The same is with the slides. Does the next image that you have in your slideshow bring any kind of new image in there? Because often in slideshows you will find that, for example, there is like there was a lion and it's really beautiful, but then you have like 50 photos of the same lion, and sometimes it's a little bit cropped in or cropped out, but the lion is just sitting there sleeping, and it's just like 50 times almost the same image. Sometimes he's opening an eye, sometimes he's rolling a little bit or something, but it's not new information. So if you have the chance or have the time to be there and say, okay, I can have a photo where the lion is sleeping, and then where he's awake, and then where he's eating, and then where he's running around. These are all new information, right? Also in this kind of, in an image like that, at what part, at what part of the image does the new information stop to be interesting, right? So in here, we have the tree. So that part, what we see here on the right side, this part here, that gives me new information. Okay, there is a tree and there is a tree. But then I have this part here. I don't really get any new information out of that afterwards, right? So I don't actually need that in the shot, right? And so if you crop closer, you have a more intimate moment with the basket, and you don't have any additional information that doesn't really add to the image, right? So to create like more focus. And Also, the interesting thing is the less elements you have, the more, not only the more focus you have on the elements, but also the more dynamic you can create between the elements, right? Because if I give something a lot of real estate on my photo, like here you have a lot of, this is taking a lot of information and this is taking a lot of information. They are so dominant from the size in the photo. Why are they so dominant in the size of the photo, right? Because this is something you subconsciously ask yourself when you look at the photo. Why is this so big? Why does it have so much space in the picture if it is not that important, right? And if there isn't information in there that you can find, and most of the image has not information that you want to find or that you find interesting, you kind of decide that the photo isn't interesting because of that, right? Even though the other information is still in the image, right? So removing information that's not so interesting can help make the image more interesting. In this case, like the saying, less is more, right? But overall, it's a really beautiful and very nice photo. Okay, let's go on here. Next photo, very nice portrait, so completely different autumn scene. Here, very nice studio shot, like the light from one side, really cool. A lot of high contrast in here. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. Also with this kind of decoration headpiece that she has that is very beautiful. So also as you can see again from the editing, there's a lot like if you would see this picture in the original as it was in the raw state, it would not be that good. It would not be that interesting as it is right now, because in the editing, the colors have been changed to make more interesting. So you can see that in that image, we basically only have 3 colors. So we have here in the background and on the clothing, we have a kind of blue tone, which is a nice dark, a nice darker, a little bit muted blue, which is very nice. Then in here in the crown, here in that area, we have more like a little bit of a green tone in here. And then in the face here on the body in that areas, but also here in these strands, we have more of a beige tone. So basically we only have 3 tones in here that separate very nicely because they stay in their area. So the blue is always here on the outside, which is very nice. The blue is always here in these kind of areas. And then we have the green basically in that kind of area. And then the beige is just in this area. So it's very nice. You have different like zones basically in the image. The only thing that I don't like so much in that image is the hand posture, which is mostly nice. The only thing I don't like here is a very little detail where the fingers, and they have the same color as the ear, they combine with the ear and make the ear look strange, like the ear is kind of growing into her face or something like that. So if these fingers would be down here, and that would be hair that separates the ear, or it would be cheek or something like that, that would probably look a little bit better than this kind of, because the situation here is a little bit unclear. You could maybe do this in post, like just put some more hair on that area, stuff like that. But otherwise, very, very nice photo. Really cool. Also very nice editing. Okay, and then I think we have the last photo for today, which is kind of more like a painting. I'm not sure if this is a photo with a paint effect on that, or it's a painting, or if it's an AI creation, which I don't think it's an AI creation. It doesn't look like that at all. I rather think this is a photo with a paint effect on there, which is nice. Looks cool. Yeah, it's the paint effect is a little bit strong, so it's kind of hard to see what the different elements are. But you kind of can see that these are leaves, and then there seems to be some kind of old wood structure here in the photo, maybe an old gate or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, very nice photo. Very nice separation also from the different colors. So that is pretty cool. Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's it for the challenge photos of today. Let me reload here to see if we have some new pictures in here. No, I don't think we have. Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you're interested, we can also talk a little bit about the channel and about Affinity Photo and about how and where software is going, stuff like that. Yeah. So how, by the way, how did you, let me go in the talk view. What is the time, by the way? Oh, I think we have a little bit more time, right? How did you experience the update for Affinity Photo? Because they did some cool stuff. For me personally, the reason why I was disappointed is because I wanted to have cool new stuff that I can show you and can make tutorials about, and that is interesting, and also going in the direction of where the customers are going, right? The consumers, casual consumers, not the professionals. And I think they focused a lot on the professionals and on the designers rather than on the casual photographers, right? And yeah, so I was just like, I was waiting so long because in the 5 years, not much has changed in Affinity Photo. And then we have version 2 where I thought, okay, now there's the big chance. And there's like very few changes that you can't really do videos about. Like the RAW is non-destructive. What are you going to talk about in that regard, right? There's just not too much in there, right? The software is still good. It's especially very good for the price, right? So that is okay. Just from a perspective of talking about the software, I would have liked that there is more changes in there that are interesting. But the positive side is, well, there's a lot of other companies who do that. So you can now, if you have multiple tools, you're still good, right? If you combine Affinity Photo with Luminar or with DxO Photo Lab or with Lightroom or stuff like that, you still can have these things at the same time while Affinity Photo is focusing on these things. I'm just personally, I think it's a bit too conservative what they did. Yeah. Anyways. And also, I think with all the AI development that we had, and I was really stressing, guys, Affinity Photo, you need AI a little bit, just do a smidge, do sky replacement, do something with AI, because that's the future. And you see it right now. Like it was 100% right, and every other software is having that right now. And of course, you can see it's such a big revolution with AI, all these changes. I am pretty certain right now that in 2-3 years from now, photo editing is completely different than what we do right now, because there is no reason anymore to do things by hand most of the time. Why would you do that, right? So why would you remove blemishes on the skin by hand? Why would you select something by hand, a complex structure, if you can just click on that element, right? You have a dog, you click on the dog, and the software tells you it's a dog. And then maybe the software suggests to you filters that are good for a dog, right? And you can either type or you even talk to the software and say, okay, make the eyes, like there's so many repetitive things. This is also with the channel. Like I showed you, I made I think almost 500 videos about Affinity Photo, but at a certain point, the things repeat, because the most, like what you do with photo is you adjust the contrast, the colors, and the brightness. There's actually not more you can do with the photo. Of course, they are then there is a million different ways to do that, and there's different tools to do that. Like, for example, with the contrast, sharpening is a form of contrast, and there's different forms of sharpening, right? There's Gaussian blur, and then there is, what else is there? Like normal contrast, and you have clarity, and you have unsharpened mask. There's a lot of different things. The problem with all of these is you need to understand what they do and how to combine that, but most people either don't know that or don't want to know that, right? So this is why now we have a change. By the way, I should look at the chat. So write in the chat, please. What you see in other software, like for example, if you look at Luminar, the sliders have the name of what they artistically do, not technically do. They say, for example, they make the image more mythical or something like that. I'm not saying Affinity Photo needs to do that, but what I'm saying is have tools that explain to the user a little bit what they do, and have the process in the tool rather than the user understanding all of these different steps you need to do, right? Because why would you need to learn what is frequency separation, and then you need to learn the different layers in there and the texture that you have in the skin, and how to like replace the texture of the skin without losing the texture of the skin, but at the same time removing the blemish. There's a lot of steps you have to understand. And instead of that, you can have a slider that says better skin texture, or remove blemishes, or soft skin, right? Stuff like that is much easier. Or make the skin look more alive, like when you have a nice skin tone, when you have a nice, maybe a little bit pink in the skin, stuff like that. Like a lot of this is also, I never touched that topic myself with skin color, because it's just difficult. And then you have with the screen, what does your screen look like? Can you actually see what the actual skin tone in the photo is? But the software can, the AI can do that. So when you click on, okay, nice skin tone, boom, there you are. It's one click. That's nice, right? So I think this will change a lot in the next years. All that kind of technology of how we do photos right now, right? And make that process a lot easier. And I don't think in many cases it's going to take away from the artistic expression, because you can still use the tools in different ways, right? And I think the classic tools might still be there. Yes, it is composite, and it could not get the snow right. The snow? Is there such a big delay? No. Can you, what are you seeing right now? Is there like a really big delay in my video? Because the snow thing was like, I think 20 minutes ago. I'm confused right now about that message. Or is it an old message? I don't know. I use clarity a little too much. Is there a really long delay? Like, can you see me right now holding my cup of tea? Or do you still... What is going on right now? Wait, let me look on YouTube real quick. Oh, maybe you clicked on the live stream later and you see an old version. That might be the case. Yeah, I can see myself holding the tea up right now in the live stream. Okay. Anyway, so let me know what you think about that. And then also I wanted to show you this. Hi. Okay, Sharon, thank you. 1 second, we have this here. So the big change, right? And I think this is also why I was not happy with the update of Affinity Photo, is a lot of people were like, well, there's nothing coming. There's nothing new. There's nothing to be hyped about. And it was really visible in my channel too, because people just didn't care anymore about tutorials, because everything works the same. There's no change. How would you talk about news if there's no news? It's just not possible. And so my channel was like slowly fizzling out, right? There were like, if I show you, what can I show you here? 1 second. This is the first one. Let's have a look at this here. So you see how low that is. Like the best I had like 1 year ago, I think 1,600 subscribers per month. And then it became less and less and less subscribers, less and less views, even though I had more subscribers in total. And then you see like here was like 556 subscribers, which is not great for a month. And then with the AI stuff coming up, you can't see that. I'm sorry. You can't actually see that. Let me show you again. So this is the graphic I showed you. Let me push this over a little bit to the side here. And that's also a thing where I was really hoping, please do some really cool stuff with Affinity Photo that I can make videos about. And it's now version 2 is basically version 1 with a tiny like update on some new effects. And for me, that's upsetting, because I would have needed that to get to be good, to be a good update. And then this is AI. Whoa, this is on the second screen. 1 second. So this is AI now, the AI topic. Whoops. So you can see like last month I had 8,300 subscribers. That's great. Like for that, as you can see here, I would have used like 15 months to create a content about Affinity Photo to get to this subscriber number that I have in 1 month last month. I mean, how can you like argue with these numbers, right? Still the question is, how can I combine that with photography, right? Because I had set up all of the future of my channel for photography, right? I bought all the camera equipment. I made a driver's license right now. I wanted to buy a car so I can drive around, make photos for you, talk about the pictures, how I edit them, stuff like that. And now I'm sitting here and do AI. So is that great? Is it kind of pulling me back? On the other side, I can still do that, right? I can still travel around. I don't have to necessarily show that on the channel, or maybe I can combine it in a way. So that's kind of figuring out how can I combine that, the AI with the photography, with the art, these kind of things. How can everything of that come together in a useful way where people are still interested, right? Because people are very focused on their interest, what they want to get out of a channel. And if the channel doesn't have that, they are not interested. Even if that is good, what the channel is giving you, doesn't mean people are watching. And that sounds contradictory, but actually it's not. Like, for example, think about you go to your favorite steakhouse, right? If they start to sell shoes, you would be like, why? I don't want to buy shoes at a steakhouse. I want to eat steak at a steakhouse. I don't want to see stinky feet and how they change the shoes and walk around and run around. I want to eat a steak and like maybe have some good jazz music and a red wine, but no shoes, right? So that's kind of conflicting, right? Even if the shoes are really nice, you don't care about that at that moment, right? So to get these things together and figure out what is the need of the community, that is difficult, right? So I'm still kind of figuring out how I can do that. But at the same time, as you've seen, like I changed from doing 2 videos per week to basically doing a video every day. I didn't do a video today because sometimes I need a little bit of a break, because even if it's like from the amount of work, it's okay creatively from your brain on coming up with these ideas every single day, and it has to be a good idea. You have to like find something that at least 10,000 people want to watch at that day. That is not easy, and that is like depleting, right? You need to recharge your brain sometimes, right? I'm AIing a lot. Yeah, and that is kind of the good thing, is like my old community didn't run away. If they still watch, I actually don't know, because like I said, the community, the subscriber number went up, but not the views, which means like probably I have at least 20,000 subscribers who don't watch my videos. They just subscribe, which is normal. Ugh, my mother is calling, sorry. I have to let me mute the phone real quick here so we're not. But a lot of people are also interested in the AI thing, and I think it will also go a lot more into the area of photography, which you have seen. Like I still didn't have time to make an update about Lightroom. And sadly, one of the things that kind of bugs me a little bit is that the AI community is not really interested in editing the images afterwards. In one reason, of course, because the AI is putting out so good quality, you don't need to edit them afterwards. But also, I think because for them, the main idea is to play around with ideas, not to put the technical process in there, right? They come for the reason of I can create any kind of fantasy in my head and make it real. So I put the camera on the inside of my mind rather than doing things with my hand, which is interesting. It's great. But it makes the combination of editing photos and AI, or editing images and AI, a little bit more difficult. I think I will do maybe next week or something, a video again, in a different way about how can you commercialize the AI output, because this gives more sense to editing the images afterwards. And then maybe there is more interest to say, okay, how can I do this with Affinity Photo, with Photoshop, with Photolab, with all these kind of different softwares. But I also want to bring in more different software. For one reason, because Affinity Photo just didn't deliver on being like creating things we need right now, doesn't have the tools. But also because I have already said everything about Affinity Photo that's there to say right now, right? I can talk about the artistic thing, as you have seen right now. I can talk endlessly about these different artistic ways. And I wanted to bring, actually, before AI came around, I had the plan to talk more about photography and how to go out, take the photo, and then edit it afterwards to bring a new dimension to that. So that was also interesting to do, and it resonated a little bit with the community, not as much as just the Affinity Photo images though. So yeah, that's also the thing. Right, so it's not easy. Creating content is really not easy, and you have to figure out what do people want, what do they expect from you, right? So getting all of that together is not easy, and I still would like to find a way to combine these two things, right? Anyways, yes, okay, so that's my thought on that right now. Yeah, and I would be so happy if Affinity Photo had some AI stuff in there so I can do some videos, and it would be so great promotion for them, right? If they had some cool things, or at least create a connection, integrate it with an API, right? You can connect with an API different software tools like Stable Diffusion, so they work inside of Affinity Photo. If they had reached out to some programmers who work on these projects for Photoshop and would say, hey, please make one for Affinity Photo too, and then we promote that on our page, that would be amazing. And I can show that, I can use it, I can do in painting, out painting, anything. We can talk about how to create VR images in Affinity Photo that combine artificial intelligence and 360 photography, stuff like that. So much potential. And now we have, what do we have actually? I actually don't know. I can't really tell you, really. You can put a tile texture onto a vector shape. Who needs that? A designer, but not a photographer. I don't know. It's just disappointing. I don't know. And the editing thing is great for the raw. This is the, like, yeah, but I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit disappointed. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to sound too sad. The software is great, the price is great. It's just I don't know. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. That's it for today. Yeah. So thanks for watching and see you soon. I hope you enjoyed that challenge live stream video. Okay. Have a good night. Bye.